When someone is playing a game, either texting or on dates, and they're playing a game, what is that saying about them if they're trying to play a game?
They're entering relationship with a desire to preserve their ego rather than truly connect with that person. It's more important that they appear desirable than then they create something that is desirable between the two of them. So if it's a case of somebody hasn't texted me in a couple of days, I'm not going to text them in a couple of days, but I'm going to post a really pretty picture online. Or if a man is like, oh, she didn't answer me back, or she didn't compliment me, no, I'm not going to give her any compliments. What you're really signaling is, I'm so desperate to be loved that I'll push it away and make you think that I don't want it, just so then if you reject me first, I can feel like I saved my soul by not investing too much. So there is self-preservation, but in the process is self-destruction. Yeah, sadly. So, and I've been there. We've all been there. I think we've all been there. We don't want to look like the idiot. We don't want to look needy. But I always just say to people that if in the process of communicating your needs, you lose somebody or they think something less of you, you're just filtering out the wrong people anyway. The right person will appreciate the communication. They'll reciprocate the communication and you'll build something. The wrong person will, be scared or run away or whatever it is, but you don't want the wrong person anyway. So it's a good filtering process. Effective communication is great for filtering out the wrong people.
It's so interesting because when I was starting to date Martha, my fiance, like just early, the first date, I was just like, I'm going to share not all of me, but kind of all of me up front. And
no games?
Yeah, no games. Just like, this is who I am. This is my flaws. This is my mistakes. This is the things I'm working on. This is, the things I'm good at, all these things. And I kind of was completely unattached to the result.
Yeah.
Like, if she likes me, cool. If she doesn't like me, at least she knows who I am.
Yeah.
And it was freeing. It felt freeing to be like, okay, this is me. I'm not playing any games. I was just like, if you like me, cool. If you don't like me, cool.
Yeah.
And that gave me freedom to be myself. And I think it allowed me to see, does she really like me for kind of all of me of what I'm able to show.
You weren't trying to impress her. You were trying to access a healthy relationship.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's what the goal should be.
And it was almost like if she didn't want to hang out with me again, I wasn't going to be upset or hurt that she wasn't into me. I'd be like, okay, this just didn't work out.
I think that comes from you having done a lot of work on yourself to get to the point where you felt pretty accepting of yourself at that stage.
Yeah. I couldn't do that in my 20s.
No, because I think the game playing originates from this feeling of, I'm starting from behind. I'm starting from not being good enough. So how can I manufacture a dynamic that is going to raise my value?
How can I show my best self?
Or how can I create a mirage of a self that doesn't exist?
Interesting.
What am I trying to do by not texting you back for 3 days? I'm trying to create this idea of myself as this extremely busy, high demand person, as opposed to the person that I am. And by the way, if I was that really busy, high in demand person, I probably still wouldn't wait 3 days to text you. Because I would say, hey, I'm running from meeting to meeting, but I wanted to say hi and how's your day? Because you still, even if you were that person and it wasn't where your value was, you didn't put your value in being a busy and important person, then you still wouldn't be weaponizing it. But the game playing is a way to kind of, manufacture or engineer a self that doesn't exist, a self that you think would be the most attractive you, that you're not really. Whereas you came into your relationship with Martha going, I'm all right.
Yeah.
I'm all right. I'm maybe I'm not perfect, but I'm all right. And I come to think of it, I quite like me. I don't mind myself. And if I find someone who likes me for me, that is far preferable to, finding someone who's into me because of this mirage I've created that I now have to sustain.
Here's a question for both of you. Both of you give advice to men and women on relationships, but I'm curious, what is the biggest challenge that you had to overcome in your 20s in your own relationships? One for each of you that maybe is a pattern looking back now. You could say, oh, this is something I did in relationships or when I was single. Maybe I played a little bit of the games. Maybe I did this. Maybe I was emotionally unavailable. But what was the thing that you think held both of you back the most in your 20s from finding love?
I always had a lot of male friends, and it was a blessing and a curse because they were so open with me about everything. And men in their 20s, you know, they're young and they're enjoying life, so they would have lots of girls on the go and stuff like that. And they would always tell me what they're doing. So they'll say, one of the tricks we do is we put her as my WhatsApp picture, but I might text other girls, but she feels calmer in that moment. Or I text her on a night out, but, you know, I do what I want, but she feels calmer when I say that. So I know all the soothing techniques might have a malicious background to it. So I would go in assuming their ways of soothing you and connecting with you has a malicious intent towards it.
But they were still off dating other people or talking to other girls.
It was just to pacify you. It's not true. So because maybe it speaks of the men I used to know and hang around with, that would be their kind of play. They would kind of know this is how you work with them. So what would happen is I would always have this mentality is you can't fool me. I'm Sadia. You can't fool me. I know everything. So the problem would be is I would meet people with the intention of showing them that I'm more intelligent than they think I am. So my process would be to prove how you can't trick me. So I'd look for clues, connect dots that aren't there, but it wouldn't be a genuine, like, why don't I just try and enjoy this connection and just see what's going on and just trust the intention? Instead, it's like, no, I know this means, and you're trying to prove to them how smart I am about human connection whilst not actually creating human connection.
Interesting. So it's almost like you could have been with like the nicest, best guy who really loved you and wanted to like show you the best of him, but you were like, there's something behind the scenes that you're doing.
I would try and check what online behavior they've got, what last seen on WhatsApp, and then connect some dots in my head and then assume the worst and then think, oh, well, at least by assuming the worst, I can't get too attached. And then I'm so smart. But secretly, I'm craving the connection that I'm pushing away. Yeah.
When did you realize that was a behavior or a pattern of yours that you were able to say, okay, let me separate myself or start to heal or process from this and start shifting it?
I thought it would be a permanent condition. I thought that I've just been ingrained with it. But I do think having a secure partner, their level of transparency and their level of security in themselves, and that attitude that you demonstrate with Marsha is, look, if you're going to play games, you're most welcome to leave. I'm not going to beg anybody. But if you want to have a good human connection, you are most welcome to take a seat on my table. Meeting somebody with that kind of mentality made me realize I don't need to come into relationships with all this defense and armor in my back pocket. Wow. I can actually put the weapons down and actually enjoy the connection and trust the connection, and also having a life I like living with or without the connection. When I felt like this was going to be my identity, being married to this person is going to be my identity, it would mean that I would almost become an investigator and this relationship would be everything and I need to figure out X, Y, Z. But when you have a life worth living outside of the relationship, it's like whatever's in darkness will come to light at some stage anyway. And when it does come to light, I will still be fine. I'm still who I am. I've still got a life worth living. So it's a combination of finding a secure partner and having a life worth living outside of the relationship.
And if something happens where he's unfaithful or out of integrity, it will come out on its own. You don't have to be constantly investigating to try to say, I got you. And the main thing is, if they do come out with that mentality and they are cheating, whatever, they're not the person I fell in love with. Right. So I'm not missing out on anything. I know it would be painful. God forbid if it did happen. I know it'd be painful. But part of me, it's the person I loved is no longer existing. So it's okay. What am I attaching to anymore? And we let go. But it's just going to redirect you. So before, where I would just think it's all encompassing and it would ruin my life, I'll still have a life worth living. And this person's not worthy of that life worth living if they show me to be that person. Wow, that's interesting.